Welcome to Reddit Confessions.
I kissed her goodbye at the airport like I'd done 100 times before. It wasn't passionate, but it was warm, familiar, the kind of kiss that says, we've built a life together. Mia was clinging to her leg, tugging on her arm, whining about wanting to go to the gift shop. And Chrissy just laughed and waved me off. Go already, she said. Don't miss your flight. I didn't know then that everything that came after would replay in my head on a loop. That smile. The way she didn't linger. The casualness of it. I chalked it up to routine. Comfort. But now I wonder, was she already gone? The job was a contract overseas, 3 months, decent pay, remote location. Communications would be spotty, and I warned her about that. She said she understood. We'll be here when you get back, she promised. She said that. I landed, settled in, sent the first message when the Wi-Fi held long enough. No reply. A day passed. Then 2. Eventually, a simple, busy sorry came through. I didn't think anything of it at first. She had the house, the kid, her job. Life doesn't pause just because I'm halfway across the world. But something gnawed at me. A shift in tone. A hesitation in her voice during our rare calls. And then, slowly, the silences stretched. And I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I just had no idea how wrong. 2 weeks in, I started waking up before the sun, heart pounding like it had heard something my ears hadn't. I checked my phone even when I knew the time difference made messages unlikely. Still nothing. A few replies here and there, sure. Always rushed. Always short. All good here. Busy day, Mia's teething again. You okay? But I could feel the spaces between the words. They weren't filled with love. They weren't filled with me. I began noticing what was missing more than what was said. She stopped sending pictures. Stopped asking how my work was going. When I called, she'd let it ring. Then text, can't talk now, Mia's fussy, or phone's dying, I'll call later. Later rarely came. I knew something was off. I just didn't know how to say it out loud without sounding crazy. One night, morning for me, I finally asked, is everything okay at home? You feel distant. 3 hours passed before she wrote back. You're imagining things. Maybe try sleeping more. It wasn't a denial. It was a dismissal. And that silence that followed, it was loud, deafening. Like she wasn't alone in that house anymore. Like the walls were holding secrets she'd never let me hear. I tried to ignore it. I really did. Told myself I was overthinking, tired, homesick. I buried myself in work, in nightly routines of noodles and emails, in reading old texts just to feel tethered to something real. But the feeling didn't go away. It sharpened. And then, during a video call with Mia, rare, fleeting, something slipped. I was trying to keep her attention while Chrissy adjusted the camera, and for just a second, the frame tilted toward the living room. The couch. It was moved. We've had that couch for 6 years. It's indented in 2 places, my side and hers. We picked it together. The brown suede one she said would make us look like adults. Now it was against the opposite wall, flipped. New throw pillows. One of those generic art pieces above it, something I didn't recognize. It wasn't our living room anymore. Not the one I left. Mia, I said casually, trying to keep my voice steady. Did mommy redecorate? Chrissy cut in too fast. Yeah, just needed a change of energy. You know. Then the call ended. Dropped. No goodbye. And I sat there, screen blank, thinking. You don't rearrange the furniture for no one. The next clue wasn't even a clue. Not really. It was a mistake. A glitch in the carefully managed facade. She sent me a photo. Not of Mia. Not of herself. Of the cat, lying in a sunbeam on the kitchen floor. It was the background that stopped me cold. On one of the dining chairs, my chair, the one I always used, was a hoodie. Gray. Zip up. Not mine. I stared at it longer than I should have. Enlarged the image. Squinted. It looked like something out of a gym bag. Worn. Slightly wrinkled. A man's hoodie. No way around it. I wanted to believe it belonged to a friend. Maybe her brother. Even though he lives states away and hasn't visited in years. I wanted to ask. God, I wanted to ask. But something held me back. If I asked, and she lied, I'd know. If I asked, and she told the truth, I'd break. So instead, I replied, cute pic. That was it. And then I sat there with my phone in my hand, heart thudding, while the silence grew into something monstrous. Because now, it wasn't just a bad feeling. It was evidence. Small, quiet, ordinary. And damning. I reached out to Greg, our neighbor 2 doors down. We weren't close, but close enough. Garage chats, borrowed tools, trash day complaints. I messaged him under the pretense of checking in on the lawn care guy. Said I'd forgotten if we paid for the full season. Greg replied quick. Yeah man, all good. Chrissy's new friend's been mowing it though. Real hands-on guy. New friend. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I asked. New friend. Another pause. Then. Thought you knew. Guy's been around a lot. Thought maybe family or something. Sorry, didn't mean to pry. No name. No details. Just enough to light the fuse. I felt sick. Cold. Like my organs had turned to ice and my blood was thick molasses in my veins. I wanted to throw the phone, scream into the desert wind outside my window, something. Anything. To get the rising panic out of my chest. But I didn't. Instead, I thanked him. Said I appreciated it. Said, yeah, he's helping out. Lie after lie. I was across the world, unraveling, and some man was mowing my lawn. Sleeping in my house. Maybe even tucking in my daughter. And Chrissy, she wasn't saying a word. I called her that night. I don't even know what I thought I'd say. Maybe I hoped she'd pick up and I'd hear something in her voice. Remorse, fear, love. Something that would make sense of the chaos in my chest. She didn't answer. No voicemail. No text. Nothing. Just the ringing, and then the empty silence of a line that goes nowhere. I stared at the time. Midnight her side. Not late, not early. Just late enough to pretend she was sleeping. Or busy. Or out. With him. That was the first time I thought of it that way. Him. Not a stranger. Not a hoodie. A person. A presence. A man who now knew where the cereal was kept. Who maybe made coffee in my mug. Who touched her. I tried to stop the thought there, but I couldn't. My mind spiraled. I imagined him walking down the stairs shirtless. Her laughing at some joke I never got right. Mia calling him something sweet without understanding what it meant. My life becoming set dressing in the background of someone else's story. And I couldn't breathe. That night, I sat on the floor of my temporary apartment, knees to my chest, crying so quietly it didn't even echo. I wasn't jealous. I was erased. The next morning, I booked a flight. 3 weeks earlier than I was supposed to return. I told my manager the project was ahead of schedule, which it wasn't. I said I had family stuff. True, if you count watching your marriage collapse in real time as stuff. He didn't push. I think he heard something in my voice. The ticket confirmation hit my inbox like a punch. Final. Unavoidable. I had 3 weeks left. 3 weeks to pretend I didn't know. 3 weeks to imagine them together. Eating dinner where I used to sit. Laughing on my couch. Watching movies in the bed I once bought as a surprise anniversary gift. And she hadn't said a word. That's what kept eating at me. Not the infidelity, though God knows that was its own wound, but the silence. Like I didn't deserve the truth. Like I couldn't be trusted with my own reality. So I started planning the return. Not just the logistics. The confrontation. What would I say? How would I hold back from screaming? From breaking? What would I tell Mia? The answers didn't come. But one thing was clear. When I walked back through that door, nothing would ever be the same. And I wasn't sure which version of me would walk in. We had this little family group chat. Just me, Chrissy, and her sister Jill. It was mostly used to share pictures of Mia, funny things she said, the occasional meme. It had been quiet lately. But then I saw it. Jill posted a photo. Mia, grinning ear to ear, her front tooth missing, holding a sparkly blue balloon that said #OnePrincess. She looked happy, glowing. My little girl. But it wasn't the picture that gutted me. It was the arm. A man's arm. Barely in the frame, cropped and blurred, but there. Holding her other hand. A watch I didn't recognize. Skin that wasn't mine. A posture too familiar. Chrissy commented. She had the best day. No mention of who the arm belonged to. No tag. No explanation. I didn't reply. Neither did Jill, probably sensing something was off. Or maybe not. Maybe this had all become normal, and I was the last one catching up. I stared at that arm until I started inventing stories. Was he kind to her? Did he discipline her? Did she cry when I called and ask why Daddy wasn't home? And worst of all, was she starting to forget the way I smelled when I carried her to bed? I closed the app. For the first time, I felt like a ghost in my own life. 3 days before my flight, I started making a list. Not on paper, just in my head, late at night, staring at the ceiling with sleep nowhere in sight. Questions I needed answered. When did it start? Was it someone we knew? Did Mia see him kiss her? Did you love him, or did you just forget how to love me? Why didn't you tell me? I repeated them like a mantra, trying to prepare. as if asking them would bring control, as if there was any version of the answers that wouldn't destroy me. I imagined the confrontation. I'd walk through the door. She'd be there, maybe shocked, maybe indifferent. I'd look her in the eye and say her name. Not Babe, not Chrissy, just her full name. Cold, measured. But then what? What do you say to someone who set fire to the house while you were still inside? Would she even admit it? Or would she twist it, gaslight me into thinking I'd abandoned her? Was I crazy for leaving? Or just crazy for thinking she'd wait? By dawn, the list was longer. Messier. And every question had the same answer pulsing beneath it all. You let someone else take my place. The airport smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. My stomach turned with every step, every announcement. The flight was delayed an hour, and I almost turned back. Almost. When I landed, the sky was gray, swollen with the threat of rain. Fitting. I didn't tell anyone I was coming home early. I needed, to see it with my own eyes before I confronted anything. Before I said a single word, I rented a car, drove the familiar roads with a stranger's grip on the wheel. Every turn felt surreal, like I was floating above myself, watching this man come back to the ruins of a life he didn't realize had collapsed. When I pulled into our street, I parked 2 houses down. Just sat there. The lawn was mowed. Mia's tricycle leaned against the porch. A pair of sneakers sat outside the door. His, maybe. I didn't recognize them. And then, through the window, I saw her. Chrissy, in the kitchen, wearing a hoodie I'd never seen. Confident, comfortable. He touched her back like he'd done it 100 times before. My heart didn't break. It stopped. For a few seconds, I swear it just stopped. And then I did something I never imagined I'd do. I turned the car back on and drove away. I didn't go far. Just a mile or 2. Enough to put distance between me and whatever the hell that kitchen scene was. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and sat there, engine humming, my hands clenched tight on the wheel. I couldn't breathe. Not properly. My chest felt like someone had wrapped wire around it, pulling tighter with every image flashing behind my eyes. Her laugh, his hand, those sneakers. And Mia. God, Mia. Was she there too? Sitting on the couch while he made dinner? Did she call him anything? Had he read her a bedtime story in my voice's place? I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and tried not to scream. A few people passed by, pushing carts, living lives I suddenly envied for their ordinariness. Their blissful, unknowing calm. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A text. From Chrissy. You home? I stared at it for a long time, like it was a trap. And maybe it was. She didn't know I'd seen anything. Didn't know I was this close. She still thought she was in control. I typed back. Soon. Sent it. Turned off the car. And began to think about how this was going to end. Because someone had to say it. Someone had to make it real. And it sure as hell wasn't going to be her. I didn't drive back right away. I walked. Left the car in that lot and took each step toward the house like it owed me something. Clarity, closure, maybe even a chance to feel human again. The streets looked the same, but everything felt unfamiliar. Like the colors had dulled, the air had gone stale. I passed the old bakery where Chrissy and I used to get bagels on Sundays. The window was fogged up, just like my head. What would I even say? Would I knock? Would I use my key? Did my key still work? That one hit harder than I expected. The idea that maybe, somewhere between missed calls and rearranged furniture, she'd replace the lock. Replace me. I kept walking, heart pounding louder with every step. Then I saw her car in the driveway. Parked behind it, his. It was unmistakably his now. I could see it clearly. An unfamiliar make, but parked like it belonged. Like he belonged. I stood across the street and stared at the house we bought together. The curtains were open. The lights were warm. Home. But not mine. Not anymore. My fingers curled around my old house key. Still in my pocket. Heavy as grief. I didn't go to the door. Not yet. I walked around the side of the house, slow and quiet, like a thief breaking into his own memories. The grass crunched under my feet. The kitchen window was open an inch, just enough for sound to slip through. I heard music. Something low and jazzy. Chrissy never liked jazz. Voices. His laugh. Deep, relaxed, too familiar. Then hers, layered over it, lighter than it had been in years. Not the strained laugh she gave me toward the end. This one was real. Whole. And then, Mia. Her little voice cut through everything. Bright. Daddy's coming home soon. I froze. Chrissy didn't say anything. Not right away. I pressed myself closer to the wall, like I could somehow absorb the silence and read it. Then she spoke. Softly. Maybe. Maybe. That single word split something in me wide open. No reassurance. No, of course he is. No correction. Just, maybe. I stepped back from the window. My breath caught like barbed wire in my throat. She wasn't just letting him into our home. She was letting him into her future. And she hadn't told our daughter I was coming back. I stood at the front door, staring at it like it might open on its own. My hand hovered over the knob, every muscle in my arm trembling. I still had my key. The one she hadn't bothered to ask me to return. The one I prayed would still work, just so I could hold on to something. Anything that hadn't changed. I slid it in. Turned. It clicked. Inside, I heard the rustle of footsteps. Mia's laugh again, closer now, like she was running down the hallway. Then Chrissy's voice, cheerful, oblivious. Dinner's almost ready, sweetheart. Go wash your hands. I stepped in. The air smelled like roasted garlic. Candles. A dinner I wasn't invited to. And there she was, standing in the kitchen, back turned, pouring juice into 2 cups. 2, not 3. She turned when she heard the door shut. Saw me. Her whole body went stiff. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open like she wanted to speak, but couldn't decide on which lie to start with. Behind her, a man emerged from the hallway. T-shirt. Socks. Casual, like he'd lived here forever. We locked eyes. No one spoke. The only sound was Mia's voice, echoing from upstairs, completely unaware. Mommy, where's my princess plate? I looked at Chrissy, and for the first time, she looked afraid of me. Not because I was angry, but because she knew I wasn't surprised. Jason, Chrissy said, breath catching. Like saying my name would reset the clock. Like maybe if she said it softly enough, I'd forget what I'd just walked into. I didn't answer. I looked at him. He looked back, posture stiff, hands low like he wasn't sure if he should reach for something or run. Who is he? I asked, not loud, not soft, just steady. No one answered. I stepped further into the room. The floor creaked under me like it didn't recognize my weight anymore. Like I didn't belong there. I turned to her again. Chrissy. His name. Her mouth opened, closed. She blinked. It's Ben. Ben. That name landed with a dull thud. Ordinary. Harmless. Forgettable. The kind of name that shouldn't matter. But in that moment, it was the name of the man who sat in my chair, ate off my plates, maybe tucked my daughter into bed, and whispered lies into her ear about where Daddy had gone. I looked at Ben. He didn't say a word. Just stood there. And that's when I realized. He didn't know I was coming back. She hadn't told him. She hadn't told anyone. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated replacement. And I'd been erased so cleanly, it scared even her. The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. One of those stupid rustic ones she insisted we hang in the kitchen. The one I hated. The one still ticking while everything else stopped. Ben cleared his throat, like maybe he was going to speak, but I held up a hand. Don't, I said. He shut his mouth again. Chrissy stepped forward. Jason, I didn't let her finish. You moved him in? I asked, my voice low, sharp. While I was across the world trying to provide for this family, you gave someone else my seat at the table? She looked down. Guilt? Maybe. Or just shame at being caught. I didn't plan for this, she whispered. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was the only thing left to do. Didn't plan? I snapped. You moved my daughter's furniture. You moved my goddamn couch. She winced. And still, she didn't deny it. I looked at her, really looked. And I saw someone I didn't know. Someone who could replace a husband before the soil of his absence had even settled. I could have yelled. Could have broken things. But instead, I asked one question. Where is Mia? She's upstairs, Chrissy answered, voice suddenly small. Taking a bath. I nodded. I want to see her. Chrissy stepped aside. I started up the stairs without another word. Behind me, I heard Ben exhale, relieved maybe, or nervous he wasn't the one about to get dragged next. Mia sat in the tub, grinning when she saw me. Daddy, she squealed. I dropped to my knees, soaking my jeans, and held her close. Wet arms wrapped around my neck. She hadn't forgotten me. Not even a little. Later that night, after she'd fallen asleep with her hand still clutched in mine, I kissed her forehead and went back downstairs. Chrissy and Ben were at the table. I stayed standing. I'll be taking Mia, I said. Calm. Final. Tomorrow. Chrissy's jaw clenched. Jason, we should talk about this. No. You made your choices. Now I'll make mine. Ben tried to interject, but I shut him down with a look. Do you have any legal standing here? I asked him. Any rights to her? To this house? To anything? He looked away. Didn't think so. Chrissy looked panicked now. You can't just take her. I cut her off. Watch me. Because this was just the beginning. I left the next morning with Mia. No scene. No shouting. Just a signed custody arrangement I'd had drawn up quietly while I was away. Contingency papers. All legal. All airtight. She'd signed it before I left for my trip, not even reading it, just trusting me. She trusted me. But trust, like houses, only crumbles when you forget to maintain it. I handed Chrissy a manila envelope. This is everything. I'm filing it today. What is it? She asked, already knowing. Divorce. Full custody with visitation on my terms. You're not stable enough to contest it. You moved a stranger into our daughter's life while her father was alive and gone for 3 months. She looked like she might faint. Ben stood behind her, quiet. Cowardly. You can have the house, I added, pausing at the door. For another month. After that, it's gone. I own it. It's in my name. You remember that, right? She blinked. You wouldn't. I would. I am. She tried to step forward. Jason, please. You gave up your place when you let him in. You just didn't realize it. And then I left. With Mia. With everything. All Chrissy had left was the man she cheated with, a kitchen full of dishes that weren't hers, and 30 days before the utilities went dark. 30 days came and went. She didn't call. Didn't text. Maybe pride kept her quiet. Maybe shame. Or maybe she was too busy arguing with Ben about rent, about bills, about the way the fridge suddenly echoed when she opened it because no one was filling it anymore. The locks changed. The utilities shut off. The mortgage reclaimed. She tried to reach out to my sister once, begging to talk to Mia. My sister didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. Just alignment. Loyalty doesn't stretch across betrayal. And Mia? She didn't ask for her mom much anymore. Kids adapt. They heal when you give them peace. I heard through a mutual friend, someone Chrissy didn't know I still talked to, that she was sleeping on Ben's couch now. Not their couch. Just his. Because it turns out he didn't want a full-time family. He liked playing house when someone else was paying the bills. She worked part-time at a grocery store. Cut her hair short. Sold her phone. Meanwhile, Mia was thriving. New school. New room. She drew me pictures of us holding hands in a house with a sun that never went down. One day she asked, Daddy, where's Mommy live now? I looked at her and said, somewhere she chose. Because that's the truth. Chrissy had made her choice. And now she was living in it. It was a Sunday when I passed by the old house. Not on purpose. Just one of those turns you make out of habit before you realize where you're heading. It stood there hollow. Curtains gone. Lights off. The porch creaked under the weight of nothing. A for sale sign leaned crooked in the yard, rain warped and forgotten. Ben was gone by then. Moved in with someone new. Someone younger, I heard. Chrissy had no job, no car, no family close enough to take her in. Just one rented room in a shared house on the edge of town. A space with peeling paint, a mattress on the floor, and no photos on the walls. She'd reached out once. An email, plain text, no subject. Just 3 lines. I miss her laugh. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not out of hatred, but because there was nothing left to say. Forgiveness isn't a door you leave open forever. It's a window that closes when you watch someone burn the house down and still ask for shelter. Mia and I stood in our own home now. Ours, not mine. There were toys on the floor, dishes in the sink, laughter echoing down the hallway. A real life. A healing one. And Chrissy? She stayed right where her choices had left her. Not punished. Just excluded. Like a ghost who locked herself out. And I never looked back.